Good evening, this is Tim Johnson, and the Brattleboro Selectboard is next here on BCTV. Among the items the board will be dealing with tonight, as liquor commissioners, they'll consider liquor and tobacco licenses for A and B Squared LLC and Family Dollar Stores of Vermont. As water and sewer commissioners, the board will look at change orders on the wastewater treatment project, the upgrade that is getting close to being completed, but not quite yet, plus a consecutive water system operational control agreement with the town of Guilford will be considered. The board also has on its plate the monthly financial report, first reading on a pair of ordinances, one for changing some metered parking spaces near the Brattleboro Food Co-op, and also changing stop signs near the Citizens Bridge. In addition, the board will at least be asked to accept a grant from the Vermont Department of Homeland Security. They'll be asked to accept a Department of Corrections grant and a second Homeland Security grant, plus deal with a couple of appointments. All that and citizens' participation as the Brattleboro Board of Selectmen, the Brattleboro Select Board, as it's now called, is up next on BCTV.
Good evening, and welcome to our second regularly scheduled meeting in October. We do know that the meeting has been officially warned, as we had an executive session beforehand. I would accept a motion on the minutes for October 2nd.
I move to approve the minutes from October 2nd.
Any additions, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-0. And the informational meeting on Wednesday, October 3rd. I would accept the motion. So moved.
I was clerk and kind of in charge of that. I think I'd rather not move on my own.
Okay.
I move to approve the minutes from October 3rd.
Okay. Any additions, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Chair's remarks. Only one. Maybe feeling a little disappointed in the real minority of our community. As people have noticed, there have been people who have worked extremely hard putting out flowers and decorating numerous places in our community. Main Street has been a significant benefactor from people donating money. There's buckets that were placed all along Main Street. The lower bridge on Main Street had mums placed in them. Those buckets have taken severe damage by people in our community. We had somebody sit in them using it as a chair. We've had people dump beer cans, water bottles, cigarette butts in them. Gallery Walk, they took significant damage from the people downtown, which is very disappointing. One bucket was totally destroyed. But I think the most egregious thing to me was what happened on the bridge. Last Monday, two flowers were taken from the buckets and thrown into the river. Went to see Rashid, my wife, replaced those flowers. Monday night, 2 more flowers from the bridge were thrown in the river. Went back up to Rashid, who was kind enough to donate flowers to put back into those baskets. And again, people throughout downtown have donated significant money to have our downtown look just a little bit better. Lo and behold, Saturday night, sometime after 11:30, all but one mum on the bridge downtown on the Latches side were all thrown in the river. Really disappointing to someone like me who believes that to attract, we must be attractive. And any little thing that we can do helps our community out. I'm a big supporter of downtown. I'm a big supporter throughout the town, as we have decorated different spots throughout the town of Brattleboro. Most likely, the people or persons who did that aren't watching the select board meeting, or will even know that I have addressed it. But it is really disappointing when people in our community, not only myself, because there are other people that do what my wife and I have been doing in different parts of the community to try to make it look a little bit better, in wanton disregard for what was done. I had Steve Barrett have the Public Works crew remove those baskets on that side of the bridge. And so I don't think anything will happen, but I'm going to make an appeal that if anyone knows who had anything to do with that, I would certainly appreciate a phone call. I'd like to say I'm going to give you a reward, but I've offered a reward before when property has been graffitied to no avail. But it certainly would be nice to know who did this, and very disappointing that this happens in a community which I truly love. But I do know that there are people in the community that don't have the same passion and love for it as I do. That's all I have. Patrick, do you have anything?
Yes, sir, I do. The town is very pleased to announce that we have recently hired Hannah O'Connell to replace longtime Highway and Utility Superintendent Rick Ethier. Hannah comes to us from VTrans and also has a background working for the Massachusetts Highway Department. She'll be starting the 29th, and I think she's going to be a great addition to the Department of Public Works.
Thank you. Committee reports?
I remember what my question is for Steve Barrett from yesterday. I just remembered. I had understood that there were penalties in the contract for the construction of the bridges over William Street and Maple, is it? If the bridges were not opened by a certain date in November. And it does appear clear that those bridges will not be completed, particularly the one over William Street on 91. And it's hard for me to understand how the contractor, with all the notice of delays in the way the construction unfolded last year, could not have planned adequately to get those bridges done in time for the middle of November this year. And I'm wondering if there's been any discussion with the state about whether any penalty provisions in that contract are going to go into effect, and why there's such a delay, and that the other than the beams, the structure and the roadway hasn't even been set on that road.
Steve Barrett, Director of Public Works. I haven't talked to them about penalties. Of course, that is a state job, and it's funded through the federal government, so it's under their responsibilities. Although I have had a lot of contact with the state engineer about the timing. My concern also is William Street and maintaining that, and the contractor has assured me that we should be able to have that open. Although their last press release said it would remain closed, we need to keep it open for maintenance. So there'll be a kind of a series of opening and closings. As far as the project itself, I'm not up to speed enough to speak about the timing of the project. I know they did run behind last year. This seems it's a really tight schedule. I do know that, just to get this project done. They pretty much buttoned up the Maple Street bridge, and they'll be pouring the one over William Street here soon. So can only hope. I mean, they're looking at December to try to complete at least these pours.
It might be nice to know when it's going to be open, because last year after the snow flew, we had the I-91 bridge when they closed over William Street when there was a crash and
Yes.
traffic was routed through town.
Yeah.
It might be nice to have more specific.
Well, we'll get
information when
an
it's gonna be
update for the board on dates. We did get one just a few weeks ago, and that was their target date to open up 91 was in the December range, first part of December, but I'll see if I can get a better update.
Thank you. Christopher?
Yeah, well, speaking of communications with the state, I understand there is a public meeting that the Agency of Transportation is going to be having, let me see what date that is, on Wednesday, the 24th of this month at 6:30 at the Career Center. And it's going to concern a number of things, including public safety, safety of the streets, bicycle lanes, and so forth. It starts at 6:30. Notice has been around spread by one of the members of the bicycling community, and I'm very interested as a result in attending myself, but there may well be others as well. I think it's going to be an important meeting.
Very good. Public participation. Here's an opportunity for you to speak about something that is not on our agenda. If you will raise your hand, I will call on you, and you can come up to the microphone, state your name and the town that you're from, and I'll give you about 2 minutes, again, to talk about something that is not on our agenda.
My name is Elizabeth.
We're going to get you the microphone. There you go. Yeah, that's fine. It's just for the TV.
My name is Elizabeth Snyder. I appreciate you having the lights at the Malfunction Junction there. Malfunction Junction. And the crosswalk signals. But we're finding that people are going right on red while the crosswalk lights are still on. I damn near got hit 3 times by the food co-op, the one that's near the riverside. I crossed there to go all the way across to the museum park because I have meetings over at the Marble Tech building. Well, these people coming on Main Street, going to the food co-op, they seem to feel that it's okay to take a right turn right there when the crosswalk signs are on. So my suggestion is, can we get signs put up saying no turn on red?
I think, Elizabeth, that there is a light down there that has an arrow
Yeah.
that says right, and when that is lit up and illuminated, it means no right turn, because we've had that discussion and we talked about the state getting those in place that when that's on, you cannot take a right, you cannot make a right turn on red. If people are doing that, obviously we're making people aware that when that's illuminated, you can't make a right turn on red. And other than the fact of having a police officer there where they could ticket someone, whether it's there or anyone else in town.
Or I'm going to start getting license plate numbers.
That's correct.
And turn them in.
Yes.
Because 3 times I almost got hit, and I'm putting my hand up.
Yeah. Again, it's driver safety, drivers being aware of the signage, but there is illuminating signs for no right turns on red.
The other thing is, I think we need another 5 seconds on those lights, because I barely can make it across from the food co-op side to the museum side. Maybe I got 1 or 2 seconds where the cars that are coming out from that 42 coming towards town, they're ready to go, but I'm about 2 seconds in front of them still. I think maybe another 5 seconds would help that and keep traffic just from making those turns and hitting each other.
Steve, those are set.
As far as, those all meet the code. We did check on those originally. We can verify the time and make sure it's still okay, but that particular crosswalk was the longest crosswalk of all the crosswalks of the downtown area, but that was a consideration during the timing.
And I don't think that there is a crosswalk button down by the museum side.
Yeah, there is.
There is.
There is.
Yep.
There is.
So most likely when you get from the co-op over to in front of the park, when you get over there, you'd probably have to press the button again. I don't think that there is enough time for you to get from A to B to go across and then all the way over.
So in
I think
other words-
I think it's a double stop for you.
Okay, I'll have to make a double stop just to get across one and then cross
That's
the
right.
other.
Yeah, I don't think that they would add time, because when you add or take away time, it affects the whole cycle.
Oh, you have it on cycles.
It's on a cycle, and when you add time, it takes away from someplace else, no matter what you do, no matter what it's for. Whether it's for a green light to go to 142 or over to across to Hinsdale, whenever you add or delete time, it affects the whole corridor.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mr. Agave?
Spoon Agave. I'd like to announce primarily for the listening audience, and of course everybody here and the board, that the Town Finance Committee's report is out. Copies are being distributed with the meeting packets at the town clerk's office. It is posted on iBrat. It was sent to the newspapers. Is it now on the town website, Patrick?
Yes, sir.
How do you find it on the town website?
I believe there's a section for the Finance Committee, a small page for the Finance Committee, and it's on that page.
Well, so if a person just clicked onto the home page to see what was happening, they wouldn't, would there be anything there to send them to the Finance Committee to find this report, to even know that it exists?
It would be under committees. There's a specific icon, I
Yeah,
think,
I
for
realize
committees.
the reason I asked is because I did click today on it. I didn't find, it was this morning, maybe it was before it was up, but I saw on the home page there was a notice that said special representative town meeting, and I assumed that I would merely have to click there. It listed for the documents, but not the report. And so I thought, well, even if the report were there, nobody would think, if they didn't know that there was a report, would think to, so that probably wasn't as helpful as it might be, and I hope maybe that can be improved. And I don't know where else. There will be copies distributed at the informational meeting Wednesday evening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's all that, and there'll be copies at the meeting itself in the morning when the town meeting members arrive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike?
Michael Bosworth, West Brattleboro Association. Couple of small things. One is about there's a new bus schedule. I realize the town is sort of out of the day-to-day of that, but just recently a new bus schedule was implemented. Some people found that out by surprise, but just a couple of concerns and requests for improvement. This I sent to the Connecticut River Transit people today, and so they moved it on to their operations manager, so it's in their hands too, but just wanted to make the select board aware of it. At or near the beginning of October, changes were implemented in the bus schedule to West Brattleboro. We definitely appreciate the increased number of bus runs each weekday. In the weekday afternoons, however, the last bus for West Brattleboro leaves the transit center at 4:45 p.m. and the High and Main Street stop at 4:50 p.m. This does not make any sense to support those who are commuting back home from work after an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 workday. Previously, the final run left downtown next to the Chamber of Commerce at 6:15, so we request the return of the later evening scheduled run. Second matter, during the weekday mornings, the new bus runs are front-loaded. That is, there are 2 early runs that leave Mountain Home at 6:20 a.m. and 7:12 a.m. There is then, however, a gap of more than an hour and a half until the third run. This scheduling supports those needing to commute early in the morning, but does not support those working more of a 9 to 5 schedule. So we request that the early morning schedules be modified so that the runs are more evenly timed and can better serve the variety of schedules that morning commuters use. Thank you. I'll give a copy to you.
Thank you, Mike.
Can I participate in public participation?
Later,
Well,
in terms of,
I don't think we ought to call it no function junction, no function junction.
no, that's right, we should. Yes,
Hi, my name is Gary Snyder. I'm with the ADA Board for the Town of Brattleboro. I'm also on the Board of Directors for VCIL. I'm here tonight to see if the ADA committee can be put on the agenda each week, or the week of the select board meetings, to report on anything, if we have anything to report. I do have some things that I want to bring up tonight. The sidewalks along the Elliott Street area are in really bad shape by People's Bank and by Harmony Parking Lot. They're really bad. They've got to be fixed, you know, because it's going to create problems, you know, this winter. I'd also like to know about the accessibility on the update on the door to the library and the threshold. I know there was some funds that were available for that project, and I haven't heard anything more about anything being done about it. So therefore, that's got to be looked into. The sidewalk beyond the library, as you're heading toward the American Legion, is in really bad shape. There's drop-offs. There's it's cracked really wide. It makes it really rough on somebody who's in a wheelchair because there's quite a space there that's really bad. Also, up by Millennium Pizza and that area, that sidewalk is horrendous. It has wide cracks. It's deep, and it's got to be addressed because somebody's going to get seriously hurt because the ice is going to build up in there, and it's going to be treacherous. So let's see if we can get that fixed up too, because it's in really bad shape. I just talked to Steve here before the meeting, and he told me to call in a work order. So, Jan, you'll be getting a call from me?
So you've identified 4 locations. I'll make sure that we have a chance to get out to each of those, have the guys put some eyes on them, see if there's something we can do to make some repairs ahead of winter.
Yeah, because it's really bad.
now what's the, I know that there was work scheduled for the library. Can we get a status report on that also? Okay, thank you, Gary. Anyone else? I usually make sure that if there's anyone else in the room that likes to speak. Yes? Oh, of course. I was hoping you were coming this evening.
Did you miss me? Hi, I'm Wendy Krieger, and guess why I'm here? Can you tell? I'm here to talk about the skate park. So, Dick, you said to me during a select board meeting in September that the skate park was only going to be 9,000 square feet. So you
Okay,
did,
go ahead.
you did. I watched the design meeting that was on BCTV, and the designers keep saying that the skating area is 10,000 square feet. During this meeting, quite a few of the supporters of the park and have made comments, and they seem disappointed that they only have 10,000 to 11,000 square feet of skating area. So listening to this, video, I said to myself, is this park really going to be big enough? Is Crow-A-Lot really the best place for this skate park plaza? So again, I say to you, I would love the town of Brattleboro, the select board, to consider creating a site committee to help find a better location for the skate park, a bigger location. I believe Brattleboro needs a skate park plaza. I think it could be beautiful. It could be an asset to our community and our youth and our adults that like to skate park and that like to skate. And I believe that with everybody's efforts, we could actually help the committee raise more money to build a bigger park. Maybe an 18,000 square foot park could be built if we find a better location. So I ask you again to please consider a committee to look at alternative spaces so we can re-site the skate park.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Yes. Please wait till you come to the come up to the microphone and give me your name and the town that you're from.
Okay.
Don't be nervous.
Okay, so this is a little intense. Okay, my name is Robin Flatley, and I'm from Brattleboro.
Thank you, Robin.
And I live on Elliott Street. And where I live would be considered somewhat a noise abutment to the park, the proposed park. And I didn't say anything about this until now, because there were a lot of people I knew that were pro-park, and I felt really bad coming up against them. But I'm realizing that my needs are important as well. And what I find is that there's a lot of night skateboarding on Elliott Street, and I don't know if you've ever heard the skateboards. They're really loud. And I can talk to individual people and ask them to stop, and they do, which is nice. But if there's a skate park nearby, I mean, I just don't want to be up all night asking people, and I don't want to be calling the police on these kids. So I'm really uncomfortable with the proximity of my residents to this park. And I'm concerned that I have a lot of other reasons why I'm concerned about it, but I'm concerned that I won't be heard unless I get up, stand here being very nervous, and say something. So here I am. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Robin, and you did very well. Yes. Mr. Wilmerding.
John Wilmerding, District 3. Just to follow suit, as long as we're on the topic, I live directly abutting the Crow-A-Lot, and I've been following the plans for the skate park very closely, and I'm still neutral on whether or not there should be a skate park there. I'm entirely in favor of having one, generally speaking, but I'm not at all sure that it should be somewhere else. I went to the recent design forum where the designers were looking for community input on what the skate park should look like, and I thought that the designer who was present gave a very enlightened presentation. But there are a couple of concerns that I still have about the project that I wanted to advance. And one of them is that the trees, I believe that the select board should commission an independent and impartial arborist to tell us that the trees will be spared and will remain healthy in the event that the skate park is actually built there. I also believe that the skate park should not become sort of a teen ghetto or a place where only teens hang out. I think that the designer who was present at the last meeting at Gibson-Aiken Center said this is not the kind of park they design. They design parks that integrate and serve the entire population surrounding. That was encouraging to me, but in particular, I think it would be good to have a walkway going around the outside edge of the park on the south edge, especially because having more people walk and use the park for walking, for pleasure, and for exercise would actually solve a problem by taking that south embankment leading down toward Union Hill and giving more eyes on it, because there are things that happen there now which constitute a problem. And actually, if we come up with a good integrated plan for the park, a whole park plan, then we have an option, I think, as a community to unite around that. And that's what I've always wanted to see, is that we get past people's contentiousness and people's resentment of one another on this topic and unite around something that's going to be good for all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Wilmerding. Michael, last comment?
Yeah, a couple of short things also from West Brattleboro Association. Just a little bit of follow-up on the bus schedule. If staff and the select board thinks those requests are reasonable, we'd appreciate sort of somebody from the town talking to the Connecticut River Transit people. And also, next time schedules are changed, it'd be good to have more of a public process. I think there's some issues about there was an open hearing or public meetings, but maybe not not locally. So whatever can be done to have good open process for the next changes that might come down. The other issue is different. West Brattleboro Association is working on the idea for a West Brattleboro sign like the one that is at Exit 3, and we'd like it to go somewhere near the Creamery Bridge. We have a design worked out with the same designer who did the one at Exit 3, but we need permission. So before we have permission to put it in somewhere in town land near the Creamery Bridge, until we get that permission, I don't want us to go and fundraise to raise the dollars to do it. So whomever in town hall or who could get that permission to us, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Christopher?
Oh, sure.
You wanted to make a quick
Yes,
comment?
as a member of the public, in addition to being a select board member, I have an objection to the use of the term malfunction junction. I don't think that's appropriate. It was an intersection down by the co-op and the museum and the bridge, Memorial Bridge, that needed work with traffic signals. We have those traffic signals. There aren't fist fights at the intersection anymore. And I think that how we refer to ourselves has an effect on how we see our community. I think that if we were to call that intersection something else, it would really be in the public interest in the long term. I don't think I want to recognize the term malfunction junction anymore in my work as a select board member. I would ask everybody to really think about what would be a more appropriate term for that part of our town, which we've tried very hard over a number of years in many ways, like with most recently with lights and better markings and with plantings on the bridge, the reconstruction of the bridge, and all the improvements that have been done to the buildings around that area. I think when you realize what has been done to that area, that the name that has come to be called that is simply inappropriate.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
My apologies.
No need to apologize, Olivia. Anyone else? Yes.
Jeannie Tamartia, and I'm on the Town Committee of Americans with Disabilities, and I brought this up at the meeting the last couple months. I think that since we're talking about this junction with no name, I should describe something I witnessed in August and in September. And the reason it came to my attention, I guess, is because I had to go through there a couple times on one day. And so it happened to me twice. I was coming down Canal Street through a green light and turning right onto Vernon Street. and people stepped right out in front of me. And I quickly put on my brakes. It was a mother and some children. It was during the summer, so I'm assuming they were maybe going to the art museum. And I quickly looked, and yes, the white light was there, and it was going beep, beep, beep. So I'm like, wow, and I just came through a green light, so this was not really good. A good set of circumstances. It happened 2 times in that day, because I forgot something at the building that I was at. I had to go back down there, and it happened again. So I mentioned it at our ADA meeting. And then in September, I was going the same route. I went through fine, and behind me, so as I went through, the light turned yellow. And now I'm very aware of watching what goes on when I make that turn. Behind me came a great big lumber truck with like the tandem, the 2 huge truck. So he came behind me, and I went through when the light had turned yellow. So I'm like, somebody is going to get hurt, because the thing was going beep, beep, beep. It's just like a matter of time or something, it seems to me. When I saw that, I was like, wow, this is just not a good, people that are hearing impaired or visually impaired, they have to go down there because VCIL exists in the Marlboro Graduate Center. And so they're not going to be able to see, like, maybe I shouldn't step off right now, because they go by the sound alone of the beep. I just wanted to make everybody aware that that's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, can you, I think the gist of what she's saying is that the crosswalk light sounds like it's changing while it's in yellow.
There's a couple things there. I'm not sure if we're talking about is that when the train is going to, when you talk about the light blinking?
No train.
So there's 2 different sound
I'm
modes.
talking about the crossing signal makes
Yep.
a beeping sound.
Yes.
And
Yes,
then
it does.
the white light, it goes from like red to white, the same as you can cross.
Yes.
All those things had already activated.
So they had and you're
The
saying,
mother and the children were in the right to be crossing, but I, as a vehicle, was not through the intersection yet on a normal green light.
okay. We'll have to look at the timing on
Well,
that then.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
She's saying that
The only thing that I can say is that if she's going through on a yellow, when it turns to red, that does change.
Right.
So,
No, it was green in September. I'm saying that as I was
okay,
going.
we'll look
under
into
it,
that.
I noticed, it turned yellow. And because I'm always looking in the rearview mirror, I'm surprised at how many people go through red lights. So.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? All right, regular business. I'll accept a motion to go into liquor commissioners.
Move to convene as liquor commissioners.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 3-0. First up,
Okay, first up this evening, the board is asked to approve a first-class liquor license and tobacco license for A&B Squared LLC. A&B Squared LLC is going to open a new bar called Arkham, which is going to be situated at 16 Harmony Place, a location previously occupied by the Brattleboro Area Hospice. It's going to be just behind Metropolis, and also under the same ownership as Metropolis. And I see that the owners of Metropolis are here, and so I invite them to the microphone, and maybe they can tell us a little bit about their request.
Who wants to talk about what
Sure.
we're doing? Okay. You wanna talk?
Sure. I'm Alan. This is Alyssa.
I'm Melissa.
And we have really loved everything that's been happening with Metropolis, and we've really been having a great time forming ties in the community through the business, and we've enjoyed everything that's come from the bar. And we were really excited when the opportunity came up to have the potential to open another bar, and we were really excited to open another place with a lot of the same ideals that we've brought to Metropolis, but to offer them to a different aspect of our community. We were looking to involve more of a demographic, and we're hoping to
A different demographic.
a different demographic,
Yeah.
and go a little more artsy and go and try and patch into that community in our town a little bit more.
So we're just hoping to kind of create a bar that's, we're trying to call it like a local place for just, we're hoping a big range of people to come, but we're not going to do the infusions aspect like we've been doing with Metropolis. We're going to keep it a little bit more mid-range bar, not as high-end. We think that we can do that well, especially because we have a good track record with Metropolis, so we're hoping to do the same thing with Arkham.
Yeah, the board should know that since becoming the proprietors of Metropolis in April of 2011, there's been no violations at Metropolis.
And just to put it out there, we do also have beautiful hanging baskets hanging outside of our bar.
Of flowers.
Of flowers.
We do have similar issues with the town, so
There you go.
I understand.
And
Extra points for that.
And something that was interesting about the bridge actually was that we haven't really found anything in our flower baskets in the.
I have. I found beer
Well,
bottles.
but it's only been a couple times, which is pretty cool
Or soda
considering.
cans,
And so it's, I think one of the reasons why maybe for us is that they're physically higher than most people, so you get to enjoy the flowers without being able to.
There you go. Well, thank you for that. We're going to work on that. I would accept a motion.
I'll make a motion, because I have some questions. But my motion would be to approve the first-class liquor and tobacco license for A&B Squared, LLC DBA Arkham at 16 Harmony Place.
Discussion.
I'm curious, if you could be a little more specific about what's going to distinguish this new place from the current operation you have?
Sure.
I mean, as a person who enjoys craft beers and things like that,
Sure, yeah, we're
I'm
gonna.
very interested.
We're actually going to not be, like I said, we're not going to do infusions, but we're hoping to do a high range of beer. So in terms of bottled, canned, and draft, we have limited access right now at Metropolis. So we're hoping to kind of expand at Arkham and do all kinds of ranges at Arkham in terms of, I'm hoping all around the world, a lot of domestic as well. And, you know, we do not currently have a TV in Metropolis. We're going to have a couple TVs in Arkham, a jukebox, no live entertainment. So we're kind of trying to do very opposite things, if that explains anything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We're really excited to make it as both comfortable and accessible to the entire range of our community. Where, you know, at Metropolis we recognize that it's the level of items that we have and the complexity of our ingredients and stuff is a little daunting to some people. And so we're really excited to open this up to every member of our community while maintaining the same, like one of the reasons why we don't have any issues in there right now is because we have a very strict policy on anyone being inappropriate, because it's just not, there's no time for that in our community, in our lives, and any of that. So we strive to have the safest environment we can, and we want to bring that to the other side of the spectrum of a super comfortable, relaxed bar environment that is, number one, safe, and two, accessible to everyone.
Good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-0. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next up this evening, the board is asked to approve a tobacco license for Family Dollar Stores of Vermont, Incorporated. This is located in half of the Fireside True Value building, which is at 895 Putney Road. Is there anybody here from Family Dollar? Would you like to?
Hi, my name is Kim. I am the district manager for Family Dollar. This is my first time too, so I'm a little nervous here. I have the southern half of Vermont stores. In regards to the tobacco licensing, we have been opening up a lot of different stores throughout the United States. The store manager goes and does a training with the state before any licenses, obviously, are released through the state. The store managers train their team members. They do online learning through our corporation on the computer. Every team member does. And that has to be 100%. They have to pass that 100%. And we have zero tolerance in regards to taking, what's the word? Zero tolerance and selling to any minors. Our registers are set up to automatically put in the dates and stuff like that. So, and we have to ask, no matter how old you are, we have to ask for ID, period. So.
Very good. Motion, please.
I move to approve the tobacco license for Family Dollar Stores of Vermont, Inc., located at 895 Putney Road.
Further discussion? When is your projected date of opening?
Projected date is November 1st.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 3-0. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I accept the motion to adjourn as liquor commissioners.
I will move to adjourn as liquor commissioners.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-0. I'll accept the motion to enter into water and sewer commissioners.
Move to convene as water and sewer commissioners.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-0. Thank you.
All right, first up this morning, or this evening, the board is in receipt of the monthly report from Hoyle and Tanner, and we have some old friends from the Department of Public Works here to walk us through that report.
Good evening, I'm Steve Barrett, Director of Public Works, and with me is Rick Ethier, who is on contract. He was our previous utility superintendent that has stayed with the project. And we're going to go over a couple of things tonight. We want to discuss some of the change orders that have come up, and Rick's going to give a little bit of an outline on the project itself and where we're at.
I know that your report that you get every month probably looks a little redundant. We're putting equipment in, wiring it up, and, but basically all the big equipment is in place, wired up, being started, stuff that goes online, we're troubleshooting if we have not enough pressure, too much pressure, not enough volume, whatever it may be, ironing those things out, and they're doing a lot of control wiring so that the SCADA can monitor all this equipment, which takes a long time. The focus right now is mainly outside. They're trying to get ready to pave before the weather gets much colder, pour some sidewalks. They've got 2 roofs to finish, 1 building to side, and get the headworks up and running, because that's the key. It's got to go through there before it goes anywhere. Once that is online, the new presses come online, everything. So that's a pretty critical point, and I think they're looking at within the next 2 weeks. We want to start presses, make sure they run. The manufacturer's rep will be down. They're pretty, $500,000 a piece. We want to be careful with them. So it's progressing very well, but there's a lot of moving parts. I invite any one of you at any time, give me a call, and we'll take a wander through.
Now, each time one of those new pieces of equipment does come online, there is a factory rep that also trains our employees, and then there's also going to be an operation manual that goes along with that for the employees. So they're trained by the factory rep, and they also, it'll be documented for future employees and for training purposes. The second part of what we'd like to discuss tonight is also, we'll just state the fact that as of September 30th, approximately 89% of the project time has elapsed, and work representing approximately 93% of the construction contract value has been completed. So, as you can see, we're starting to continue to wind down to get closer to a completion date. With that, there's 2 levels of change orders. One is approved at my level, which is anything under $5,000 as a change order, whether that be a positive or a negative. And the other is for the board to approve. And here again, we are in a situation where the change orders are in the positive on my part, and as far as the board, will be in the negative, which seems to be that way the last few times. The first change order was a pressure reducing valve on the cooling heat exchanger. This is piping and a pressure reducing valve that needs to be added to this system. The change order on that is $2,748. The rotary press drain line changes. There was changes to the drain line after the installation. It needed to be changed into a different direction with some coring, and that came to $1,511. changes to the spray foam detailing the thermo digester. What this was is to add more insulation spray foam towards the base of the digester itself. So there'll be a payoff in the future as far as the insulation factor. And that was identified in the field. It wasn't specified on the original plans. That calls for a $3,428 change order and 1 additional day to the contract. The brick repair to the dewatering building, again, we talked about this last time I was before the board. We removed a lot of it was kind of a siding that looked like brick, and because of that, there was several hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think it was close to $600,000. Because of that, then there's some actual physical repairs that do need to be made to the brickwork. And this is another one similar to the change order that I brought to you several weeks ago. It's $1,813. And then the final change order is your change order, and I'm requesting that you approve a decrease in the contract of $8,096. And that's because a larger chopper pump was installed. 2 pumps were actually installed. And because of that, we had a choice, and we negotiated this for quite some time. There's the disadvantage of having the larger chopper pump is over time there would be an increase in electrical cost. The advantage is certainly both of the pumps are larger and they can do more work and they probably last longer. The downside would be if we demanded that we wanted the original pumps, it would be a delay in the project, which we don't want. So what Hoyle Tanner did is work with the manufacturer to figure out the additional electrical cost for the life of the machine, and then in the end, that's where we come up with this number of the 8,000. So we're basically getting paid back for any additional electrical cost over the life of these chopper pumps, and that's an $8,000 savings. And the balance between all of those would be an increase of $1,404 plus 1 day of the contract. Yes?
I want to make sure I understood that. I mean, I trust you, but we got bigger pumps.
The larger pumps.
But they didn't cost us more for the bigger pumps.
Did not cost us more.
Because that's what came, but they're going to cost us more to operate over the life of the system, so they're giving us bigger pumps, but we're getting a credit because it's going to be more
electrical consumption.
Costs.
That's correct.
Good work.
Well, it was looking at the bigger picture in the long term. And the first thought process was, well, the larger pumps would be bigger and better, but it was the electrical. So those are the changes that we're requesting.
So I think that when we gave you the authority to approve the smaller changes, I'm not sure we have to really approve them, but it would be more to ratify them. So I moved to authorize and ratify 5 project changes as presented at a total dollar amount of $1,404 plus an additional contract day, and to authorize town manager to sign corresponding change order.
Further discussion?
Can I just offer a friendly amendment? You say to authorize and ratify the 5 proposed project changes, and I would like to insert after the word changes, resulting in a net increase in project costs totaling $1,404. It just seemed a little more precise and a little clearer. So that
I don't have any problem with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0, or 3-0, excuse me.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Guys, I understand that we're now pumping about 1 million gallons a day through the plant. Its capacity is 10 million. I'm just wondering, thinking big numbers, perhaps longer-term thoughts about how long this project is likely to last as a finished product.
20 years is what the average life of the wastewater treatment plant, including the previous, that we really stretched it quite a bit. The plant actually flows about 1.5 to 1.6 million gallons a day, and the capacity is 10 at a full storm, but on average it's at its 100% efficiency is a 3 million gallon per day facility. So, and over time, what we've seen is a decrease in the amount of discharge water because people are conserving
I
flows.
see.
So that also is less wear and tear on the equipment.
Mhm.
And as we prevent more stormwater from entering the wastewater system, that also will reduce the wear and tear on the equipment. So.
Mhm. Is that something that's coming down the pike, more segregation of stormwater from
Yes.
internal use?
Yes, and over the years, we've disconnected a lot of the stormwater drains that do, or roof drains and such,
Mhm.
any opportunity that we get.
Mhm.
So there's, and the other thing we do is we work on the existing collection system to make it a tighter system.
Mhm.
So we line pipes and redo manholes and such, so there's less groundwater and also rainwater that enters the system.
Oh, great. So that's going to be an ongoing initiative?
It's an ongoing program.
Okay, thanks. And great work, guys. I'm just got to tell you how, every time we talk about this, I just can't help myself but tell you how impressed I am at how you're making something so complicated, so complex, sound easy. And just, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we need to vote on the motion as amended, friendly amendment. All those in favor? We did vote on it, 3-0. Okay, excuse me. All right, John, you're up.
Okay. So included in your packet is
Good to see you, Rick.
financial report on the funding sources and uses for the wastewater project. And you can see there are 4 funding sources. There are 3 bonds and 1 grant. And if you go to the bottom of the page, you can see that so far to date, we've drawn down $25.6 million from these funding sources. The total funding is $31.4 million from all 4 sources. So we have a balance left of roughly $5.8 million. And that's where we are with the funding for the project at this point.
John, are we believing that these funds here will carry us to the finish line without going out and looking for some additional funding?
At this point, it's certainly a possibility. We've got about $2 million in retainage from the project. The cash forecast from the contractor to finish the project is maybe somewhere in the $1 million range. And then we have the Spring Tree project, which is in the $850,000 range. So between those 3 items, we're at about, $4 million, $3,850,000, somewhere in that range. So it's certainly a possibility.
That would be great, under budget.
Yep.
Thank you.
Very impressive. I mean, real kudos all around.
Agreement.
Okay, thank you, John. Next up, we have the consecutive water system operational control agreement between the town of Brattleboro and the town of Guilford. I see that Steve Barrett's back, which I think is a good idea. I think we're having a bit of an earthquake.
Are we? Is that a tremor?
It's what it feels like. Feels like
It is?
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. It's not a train?
No. Train goes by every day.
Not near here.
Don't adjust
It
your
doesn't feel
seat.
like that. Anyhow, getting back to the
I just sat down, sort of heavy.
consecutive water system operational control agreement between the town of Brattleboro and the town of Guilford. And Robert, would you like to talk to us briefly about this document?
Sure. What we have here is an agreement between the town of Guilford and the town of Brattleboro to extend the Brattleboro water system into the town of Guilford, whereby the town of Guilford is doing the construction of that, but so as not to have Guilford operate an entirely independent system, Guilford will be connecting to the town of Brattleboro water system, and the town of Brattleboro will be essentially the operator of that system. This agreement has gone back and forth through what are now many revisions, trying to nail down how it's going to actually operate. Things like the water testing, the state permit, all of that will be town of Brattleboro's responsibility. The town of Guilford will be paying us for the water usage based on a meter that is essentially at the town line, or what we call the point of connection. And then all of the, Guilford will also create an ordinance which will be identical to ours, such that the connection fees, user fees, all of those sorts of things are paid to the town of Brattleboro, though Guilford will do the administrative part of this to collect from its users and then pay the town of Brattleboro based on the overall big meter going from Brattleboro into Guilford. So I believe this has been vetted. If you have any questions, Steve and I are here to try to answer those. And I believe the town of Guilford has, if they've not approved this already, they're about to, my understanding.
Very good.
I move to approve the consecutive water system operational control agreement between the town of Brattleboro and the town of Guilford, and to authorize the town manager to sign the agreement as presented.
Discussion.
So just want to clarify, the town of Brattleboro would in effect not be responsible for collecting from citizens from Guilford. The town would have one customer, that being the town of Guilford.
That's correct, yes.
Further discussion and/or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 3-0. Thank you. I'll
Move to
accept the
adjourn
motion.
as water and sewer commissioners.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-0.
All right, next up we have Finance Director John O'Connor, and he's going to talk to us about our financial statements.
Okay, so included in the packet, and thank you, Patrick. Included in the packet is the financial report and the financial statements that go with the report. We're 25% of the way through the fiscal year. The general fund expenditures stand at 26% of the total budget for the year. But that's really due to primarily due to two things. One is a one-time transfer to the capital fund of $474,000. And the other is a semi-annual insurance payment of $235,000. So if we were to prorate those two items and take another look at the general fund expenditures, they'd be at 22.8%. So actually below the 25% target. So I think things are tracking really well, and we seem to be doing fine with our budget so far. The same is true with the utilities fund, which is at 21.5% of the total expenditures, and the parking fund is at 20.3%. So that's kind of the overview on each of those three funds. There's all of the financial statements that go with those three funds. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions. Yes?
I try not to ask these kinds of questions, but I do have very limited questions about the utilities fund budget.
Okay, we get that one.
I just found it confusing where it says that we're budgeted for $4,300,000 in total revenue, and it's got us at negative $71,000 in revenue for the year. So I wondered if you could explain how we're in negative at this point. And then while you're at it, on that next page, seasonal employees, it's not a big ticket item, but seasonal employees, we're already way over budget. I would say way over budget, but that's an $8,000 line item. That's almost a $10,000. It's $9,200. Same thing with the workers' comp was way at a pretty high amount, and the sludge removal. I was just wondering whether Steve could explain why those three items are up high. I noticed that on the warrants too when I was signing, there seemed to be very high numbers for a couple of employees.
On the seasonal employees, we've had several employees that have been out long-term on workman's comp, and we supplemented our workforce with a seasonal help.
Mm-hmm.
So since that time, we're down to one seasonal help, and we're still down some full-time employees who have been out with long-term difficulties. So that's the reason that line item's over. That may be adjusted also with the regular salaries if there's a workman's comp or such later, at a later date. But to track it, it stays, everything is charged to that account for now. So that may be retracked. The sludge account is a moving target with this process at the plant. I don't think it's, actually I think some of that is going to be picked up through the contract itself. But there have been, and you're looking at the wastewater, or you're looking at?
Yeah, it's wastewater, yeah.
Yeah. And that, because there's two different accounts for that. One is at the waste, or the water treatment plant with the alum sludge. So the wastewater is more of a moving target because of these tanks that have to be completely emptied that normally would not.
And then,
Did that cover them all?
it did, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, the revenues are a result of adjusting what we call the accrued revenue for the period of time between when we actually read the meters and closed the fiscal year. And so we adjust that number based on the number of days that we have between those two periods. We hadn't done any of our billing for the first quarter of this year. That only went out yesterday.
Okay.
So you'll see a change in that when you see the next report.
Thanks.
But it is a little confusing.
Any other questions?
I guess I just had a couple of questions then on the loans, because there are a couple that are, there's one that's late 4, that's one that's late 1, and one that's in default.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, just to know, I don't need specifics, but I want to know that steps are taken regularly to be in touch to try to bring those loans into current status.
Yep. Yeah, we definitely are in contact on all of those. In fact, Bob is working on the late 4. That's an individual that passed away and left an estate, and I know Bob is working on that. The default took place years ago, and we've just been carrying that. We have a reserve, you can see at the bottom of the page, allowance for uncollectible accounts, $260,566. That's to offset the defaulted loan.
Thanks.
So yeah, we've got 38 loans, over $4 million in loans outstanding at this point. Most of them are the first generation VCDP monies, so there's a substantial number of loans out there. On the back side of that page, you can see the program income. This is money that we have available to loan at this point in time. And as of the end of September, we had $520,000 that was available for us to loan. So fairly substantial amount of money, actually. And in the grant report, there's a lot of information contained on that report, but it really breaks down to, we have 50 active grants that we're managing at this point in time. And we have 10 grants that are in the application phase. And there are grants that, everything from, there's one grant that is it's not really a grant, it's a loan, but it's a subsidized loan with the wastewater department that's over $14 million. It's one of our funding sources that we talked about earlier for the wastewater project. That's a subsidized loan from the Clean Water Fund. So there are many loans, some very large, some smaller, but it's a real effort to keep up with 50 active loans and 10 in the application phase.
Thank you.
I'm curious
Go ahead.
about the library doors. We get these reports. The biggest report we get from the town departments is the library report.
Yeah.
It takes an hour to go through. And I noticed that the door, I was running by the library today and noticed that the same old doors are there, even though we've gone through, hoop after hoop on that. What's the...
The doors are in the capital plan this year.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what Jerry's schedule is to get those doors installed, but I know that it's in the plan this year to be done.
Okay. I mean, do you know if it'll be before it gets cold or anything like that?
He hasn't shared that with me, Chris.
Hasn't shared that with you? Okay.
I can make sure we have an update for the board at the next meeting.
I'd be grateful. I'd love to see that. It's a heavily used building. And,
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm just hopeful that we do it, to gussy up that entrance.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, John. Moving along, we have a first reading of an ordinance relating to Canal Street. This would be in the ordinance Appendix C, Article 3, in the section for on-street areas. I'll just go ahead and read the proposed new change to the ordinance, and it states, on the northerly side of Canal Street, on the westerly end of the Brattleboro Co-op property, in the area in front of 7 to 9 Canal Street, for a total of 3 2-hour parking spaces.
All right.
These going to be new parking spaces?
Yes.
They actually are new parking spaces, and they will be metered and 2 hours. Just as you're sort of proceeding down Main Street and heading up towards Canal Street, as you're rounding past the co-op, these will be 3 parking spaces very close to where the next building would begin. Right there as you're making the turn, it was determined by traffic safety that that's a little too narrow for additional parking, but there was space for 3 additional parking spaces a little bit further up, closer to the next building. Next item will be a sort of clarification and a change to the ordinance for Guilford Street Citizens Bridge. This is actually a correction to acknowledge that no change to the ordinance took place when the bridge was actually rebuilt a couple of years ago. So this will be a change to correct that situation. We are once again in Appendix C. Article 6, Sections 16 to 70 under stop signs, and we would add 118 Guilford Street at Western Avenue, 1 location, and at 119 Guilford Street at Citizens Bridge, 2 locations.
Can I take this to mean that when I proposed that we were going to get rid of the stop signs on the other side of the bridge, actually we had never put in the ordinance that there were going to be stop signs there? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
Excellent.
This must have been, I got a question, if I may. There's another stop sign for the farmer's market parking lot, too. So I don't know if that should be added to this ordinance, if you're...
I don't know if that was incorporated or not, but we can certainly take a look.
Is the stop sign if you come from Western Avenue on the bridge, and then the one on Guilford Street, but there's also one for traffic coming out of that parking lot in the old Creamy Bridge. So that you may want to add that.
Bobby, could we...
And we can add that for the second reading.
We can have a first reading.
This is the first reading.
This is the first reading. We can add that and not have it be a major change.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
The stop signs have been there without the ordinance. Okay.
Correct. All right, next up this evening, the board is asked to accept and appropriate a grant from the Vermont Department of Homeland Security for structural collapse training for 3 firefighters to attend later in the month and on into November.
I move to accept and appropriate a grant in the amount of $7,870.88 from the Vermont Department of Homeland Security to fund a 5-day structural collapse training for 3 firefighters.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 3-0.
Next up, the Brattleboro Community Justice Center has received an amendment to their Circles of Support grant from the Department of Corrections. So the board is asked to accept and appropriate the $12,500 grant to extend what they call COSA reentry services provided by the Brattleboro Community Justice Center.
I will be happy to make a motion on that effect. To accept and appropriate an addition of $12,500 to the Second Chance Circles of Support Offender Reentry Grant, number 03520-1165, and extend the grant term to September 30, 2013.
Let me add from 9/30/12 to 9/30/13.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 3-0.
The board is asked to approve a grant application on behalf of the Brattleboro Police Department to the Vermont Department of Homeland Security for up to $40,000 to purchase a license plate reader machine. And here to discuss that is Police Chief Gene Wren.
It's actually for 2 license plate reading systems. We have 2 vehicles that have mobile data terminals in them, so we would like to install one in each cruiser. We'll apply for 2 and see if those get awarded. The way the license system readers work, they allow it to upload databases from NCIC, Amber Alerts, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Motor Vehicles, as well as you can do locally established lists. If we wanted to make a list of outstanding parking tickets or people on the boot list, we could do things like that. These systems are capable of reading thousands or 1,000 plates per minute as the vehicles are driving down the road, and it'll set off an alert that says, here's a wanted vehicle, here's a an Amber Alert vehicle, here's an outstanding boot ticket vehicle. And then it will warn the officer of that vehicle, and then whatever action needs to be taken can. Along with that, it will adopt new policies on how they're operated and the training that needs to be done for them.
There was a note in the materials somewhere, and I didn't really understand why, that it was going to go to the Capital Grants Review Committee.
Yes.
Did it? And what did they have to say, if anything?
It has not. Sorry to interrupt.
It has not yet. We just got notified of the grant October 3rd. The deadline to apply is October 31st. So we'll need to get to that committee, but we wanted to come here first.
Why did this particular grant go? Why was there a requirement that that particular grant go to that committee as opposed to all the other ones that we see every 2 weeks?
I think Barbara had some concerns that there were some obligations to maintain the equipment, some additional expenses that we would be signing on to by accepting the grant and accepting the equipment, and wanted to have the Capital Grants Review Committee take a look at that just to offer their opinions. But the reason we wanted to have the chief here and to get this grant request approved by the board is because of the very narrow time limit.
Well, I will make a motion to authorize a grant application to the Vermont Department of Homeland Security for up to $40,000 for the purchase of a license plate reader machine. For two
license plate
reader machines for that $40,000.
Further discussion?
Got that, Jan?
Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, next up, the board is asked to appoint Mike Hutchison to the Brattleboro Tree Advisory Committee. There's a letter in your package from Mike, and
I move to appoint Mike Hutchison to the Brattleboro Tree Advisory Committee for a term ending June 2014.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Thank you. Thank you, Mike, for applying.
And lastly, the board is asked to appoint Danny Frazee to the Conservation Commission for a term ending June of 2016.
I move to appoint Denny Frazee to the Conservation Commission for a term ending June 2016.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 3-0. Thank you. Meetings.
Meetings. Okay. In the unfortunate absence of Ken Schneck, who does a stellar job of reading the meetings, I will read about the meetings. So here goes. On Wednesday, October 17th, Select Board Special Information Meeting, 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Gibson-Aiken Senior Center, 207 Main Street. Same date, 7 to 9 p.m., Agricultural Advisory Committee, meeting at the Hannah Cosman Meeting Room here in the Municipal Center. On Thursday, October 18th, from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., the CPCC special meeting, also at the Hannah Cosman Meeting Room. Same date, 6:30 to 8 p.m., the Skate Park Committee in the Hannah Cosman Meeting Room. On Saturday, October 20th, 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., special representative town meeting at the Academy School Gym. On Monday, October 22nd, 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., CPCC again, at the Brooks Memorial Library Community Room. Same date, 6 to 9 p.m., Planning Commission in the Select Board Meeting Room here. From same date, 6:15 p.m. to 7:15 p.m., West River Park meeting at the Gibson-Aiken Conference Room. Tuesday, October 23rd, 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., Traffic Safety Committee meeting in the Select Board Meeting Room. Same date, 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., Finance Committee meeting in the Select Board Meeting Room here in the Municipal Center. Same date, 5:15 to 8:15 p.m., Conservation Commission meeting in the Hannah Cosman Room. On Thursday, October 25th, from 5 to 5:30 p.m., the Basic/Design Site visit will be held at the Crow-a-Lot site, beginning at 5 o'clock, and then moving to the Gibson-Aiken Senior Center. And that's anticipated to go from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. On Monday, October 29th, from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m., the special meeting of the Select Board regarding the fiscal year 2014 budget in the Hannah Cosman Meeting Room. On Thursday, November 1st, from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m., another Skate Park Committee meeting in the Hannah Cosman Meeting Room. On Monday, November 5th, from 5 to 7 p.m., the Energy Committee will meet in the Hannah Cosman Room. Same date, 6:15 to 8 p.m., there will be a special Select Board meeting. On Tuesday, November 6th, from 6:15 to 8:15 p.m., there'll be a Select Board meeting here in the Select Board Meeting Room. And if that isn't enough meetings, then I'm sorry for you.
I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I will move to adjourn, also in Ken Schneck's tradition.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 3-0. Thank you, BCTV. Thank you, press.